Okay, now we're going to look at a study which demonstrates that there are cognitive maps in rats. So if we go over to the iPad, what we can do is to look at this experiment. There were two conditions in this experiment. One of them was response learning and one of them is place learning. And the rats had to solve a very simple maze. So the maze might look like this, and there would be food placed over here. Now I'm going to attempt to draw a rat. So here we go, there's a rat. So it seems fairly simple here that what the rat has to do is essentially learn, the response that it has to learn is to turn right. So that seems fairly simple. Let's think about another kind of situation. So now we have a similar maze, but this time what we're going to do is to place the rat up the top. Now this is the response learning condition, and so we are training this rat to turn right. So from its point of view, we have to put the food over here. So that's what was done. Okay, so we'll look at the results of this experiment in a moment, just outlining the various conditions. Just to summarize, we're placing the rat and the food in particular situations such that the correct response from the rat is always turn right. So let's actually write this down. Turn right. And again, turn right. Okay, so let's look at the place learning experiment. We have a similar setup here. It's a very kind of simple, elegant experiment. And again, we've got a rat that we're going to place in the bottom of the maze. And now what we're going to do is we're going to see if the rat can learn where the food is. So this is very different to what is the right response. Now we're trying to teach the rat a location. So in this condition, if we put the food over here, in order to find that, the rat has to turn right. But now this is the kind of crucial condition here, where we're going to place the food on the right again, because we're trying to train the rat to learn a place where the food is. But what we're going to do is to place the rat up the top of the maze. And now what does the rat have to do from its point of view? It actually has to walk down here, and then from its point of view it has to turn left in order to find the food. So that's the thing. In the left condition, the response learning condition, the rat just has to learn what the response is, turn right. On the place learning condition, the rat has to learn where the food is, where is the food located. And in order to solve that, depending upon where the rat is placed, it actually has to turn different directions, and so the response required is different. Okay, so let's have a look at the results. So in this graph we have experimental trials along the x-axis. So each trial the rats will be learning, or maybe, and along the y-axis we have the total number of errors. And so there were 8 rats per group. Let's have a look at the response learning group, this solid line. what we can see is that we have a relatively high rate of errors here, and over time the errors kind of remain quite high actually. Even after 30 trials, the total number of errors is about 2 to 3. So that's kind of interesting, because from a behaviorist perspective, you would have thought that the stimulus of the maze and the desired response turn right would be a really easy thing to condition, to learn. But what we actually see is, if you look at the place learning curve with the dashed line, is that the number of errors made here drops really significantly, really quickly. And so after 9 trials, the rats in the place learning group have basically learned exactly what to do. So this is kind of interesting. It definitely runs counter to some of the assumptions of behaviorism, because what we're not doing here is, it seems that the conditioning of a stimulus and a response is actually not really working very well, whereas the rats seem to have an ability to learn where the food is. So where is this food relative to me in space? And so this was taken as evidence for the rats having a cognitive map,